Have you ever wondered why some people live happily past 100, while others fade in their 70s, even when they eat well and stay active? A groundbreaking 85-year Harvard study found the answer. And it's not about diet, exercise, or even genetics. It's who you live with after 60. Yes, really. Researchers concluded that the single most powerful predictor of longevity and happiness is the quality of your close relationships, especially in your living environment. In fact, seniors with strong social ties live longer, have better memory, and experience 60% fewer hospitalizations than those who live alone. But here's the scary part. Most people over 60 don't know this. They assume that aging in place means staying safe and independent. But what if the person you choose to live with after 60 is the difference between joyful longevity or slow decline? Today's video tells the story of Helen, a retired midwife from Minnesota, and the shocking truth she discovered about who you live with. At 68, Helen moved in with her youngest son and his family. She thought she'd found her forever home. There was a nice guest room, a private bathroom. Her daughter-in-law cooked healthy meals. The grandkids loved her. But within 10 months, Helen was diagnosed with high blood pressure, anxiety, and early signs of cognitive decline. She started forgetting appointments. She cried more often. She felt like a burden, though no one said it aloud. The family never fought, but she could feel it. The quiet expectation that she stay out of the way, and the subtle guilt of taking up space. What went wrong? Helen reached out to us at Elderly Wisdom After 60 with a handwritten letter that began, "I thought I had found safety, but I realized I had lost myself." She shared that while her physical needs were met, her emotional and mental needs were quietly ignored, even by herself. What she did next changed not only her health, but her sense of self. She's now 75, healthier than she was at 60, and credits one life-altering decision: choosing the right kind of person to live with. Helen wasn't alone in her struggle. We've heard from hundreds of seniors, many of whom echoed her story, often in heartbreaking honesty. Like Jeanette Swain, 78. Don't live with anyone. Put help resources in place and stay in your own home. Family will reduce you to what they want you to be and remind you of your place. Or Edward England, 74. I just married my gay husband. We've been together since 2007. We live in his village in Thailand. I'm aging with intention now. Life is great. And Lucille Caliendo, 82. I'm a cat lady and not ashamed of it. I volunteer, take singing classes, and surround myself with upbeat, life-affirming people. I may live alone, but I'm never lonely. Then there's Leah G, 60. I lived with my daughter for 3 years, but when I moved out, she was angry. My other daughters blamed me. I was devastated. Even Marguerite Gastanaga, 79, wrote, I used to be a hairstylist. I was used to conversation all day. Now I sit alone. We're not meant to be this alone. These are not random stories. They are letters, confessions, wake-up calls. Stay with us to the end, because this might be the most important decision you make for your health, your happiness, and your future. This is not just about senior living options. It's about discovering a secret longevity factor that no one teaches, but every wise elder understands. You'll see how Helen's journey unfolded, the 3 living situations she tried, and the one that truly changed her life. We'll also explore the science behind these choices and what neuroscience, longevity research, and real seniors are revealing about living arrangements after 60. At this channel, we tell real stories backed by science to help you age with purpose, connection, and joy. Because aging alone is dangerous, but aging with intention and the right kind of people is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health and happiness. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into What really happened during Helen's year of multi-generational living? The unspoken emotional toll, and how it crept up without warning. And the moment Helen realized, this isn't aging, this is disappearing. You'll also hear what neuroscience says about stress hormones in caregiving households, why so many seniors feel anxious even when living with loved ones, and how boundaries can make or break your health after 60. So don't go anywhere. This is just the beginning. What has been your experience with senior living after 60? Have you tried living with family, friends, or on your own? What worked, and what didn't? Please share your story in the comments using the keyword Life After 60 or Chosen Family. Your words could inspire or guide someone else in this community who's quietly struggling, just like Helen was. This channel is built on elderly wisdom, real-life stories, and honest conversations. Let's grow stronger together. Type your thoughts below. We read every comment. When Helen first moved in with her son James, she imagined quiet mornings with coffee, laughter with her grandkids, and peaceful evenings in her cozy guest room. And at first, it was exactly that. Her daughter-in-law cooked delicious meals. Her 10-year-old granddaughter would peek into her room each morning with a smile. There were family dinners, weekend outings, and Helen felt like she belonged. But slowly, things shifted. It wasn't any one big moment, no argument, no fight, no clear rejection. It was subtler than that. It started with her daughter-in-law sighing when Helen offered to help in the kitchen, or her son saying, "Mom, maybe don't mention politics at the table anymore, okay?" Or the grandkids playing behind closed doors, quieter, more distant. Helen brushed it off, told herself not to be sensitive, that this was just family life. But within 6 months, Helen began to feel invisible. Family dinners happened without her. Plans were made without asking her. Even chores she tried to help with were gently redirected, or worse, ignored. The once warm guest room began to feel like a waiting room, a place where you stay, not belong. She smiled less. She laughed less. She started talking to herself more just to hear a voice. And one night, while folding laundry in silence, she whispered, "I miss myself." Psychologists call this ambient rejection, a subtle but chronic experience where someone's presence is tolerated but not welcomed. And for seniors, it's especially dangerous. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that older adults who experience emotional isolation, even while living with family, show elevated cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and faster cognitive decline. This means that living with people who don't truly see you can be worse than living alone. And that's exactly what Helen was beginning to feel. Her story mirrors what many of you have shared with us. From Kathy Lewis, age 75, "I don't experience loneliness, but I don't want to live with family either. I end up being used because I'm strong and self-sufficient. Nothing worse than living with someone who controls you." Or Rosa Chavez, 71, "I come from a big family. Being alone gave me freedom. Senior centers depress me. I prefer spending time with people who stimulate my mind, not drain it." And Jeanette Swain, 78, "Family will reduce you to what they want you to be and remind you of your place. These aren't just opinions, they're warnings." Helen knew things weren't working, but she felt trapped. She worried that leaving would offend her son. She feared she'd be seen as ungrateful. But worst of all, she feared being alone again. Until one night, something changed. She had just finished a dinner of microwaved leftovers alone in her room. Her family was downstairs watching a movie. Not once had anyone invited her. Helen lay down in the dark and quietly cried. Then, almost instinctively, she reached for her phone and typed the words, "Is there a way to live well after 70 without being invisible?" That search led her to this channel, and a week later she wrote to us, sharing her story. Modern brain imaging confirms emotional neglect activates the same brain regions as physical pain. It's why Helen, and so many others, describe family rejection as aching, heavy, or like disappearing. Dr. Cacioppo from the University of Chicago coined the term social pain equals brain pain. This means that being surrounded by people, but not emotionally connected, can be worse than isolation itself. So what did Helen do? Helen started small. She joined a senior writing group at her local library, just once a week. Then she reconnected with an old friend from nursing school on Facebook. And finally, she had the conversation with her son. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. She explained that while she loved them, she needed to feel alive again. Not just safe. They cried, they hugged, and then she began to look for a new place, a different kind of home. 6 weeks later, Helen packed up her books, her framed photos, and her favorite blue teapot. She didn't know exactly what was next, but she knew what she wouldn't return to, a life of quiet suppression. And as she closed the door behind her that day, she smiled for the first time in months. A real smile, not one for show. What about you? Have you ever felt like Helen? Have you lived with family, only to realize it drained you more than it supported you? What gave you the strength to leave, or what's holding you back? Share your story in the comments with the phrase, family living after 60, or life lessons from aging. Let's open the door for someone else who might be quietly struggling in the very next room. We see you, we support you, and your story matters. Helen's story is not rare, it's just rarely told. If you've ever felt the quiet sting of being too much in someone else's home, or not enough in their eyes, please know this. You are not broken, you are not alone, and it's never too late to choose differently. Whether you're 60 or 90, your living space should nurture your soul, not shrink your spirit. So let's keep talking, keep sharing, keep building a future where senior wellness isn't about being quiet and convenient. It's about being fully, vibrantly alive. Helen didn't move into another family's home. She didn't go to a senior facility either. Instead, she did something most people her age wouldn't even consider. She took a chance on a stranger. A woman she met at a book club, a woman who would become one of the most unexpected blessings in her life. What started as a cautious arrangement turned into a joyful, healing friendship, and perhaps the best living decision Helen had ever made. In part 3, we'll take you inside that journey, how they met, the 5 questions Helen asked before moving in, and why roommates after 60 might just be the secret no one talks about, but everyone should consider. If you've ever thought, I could never live with someone again, you may want to hear Helen's story first. Stay with us. Part 3 is coming, and it might change the way you think about companionship forever. After leaving her son's home, Helen didn't know what she was walking toward, only what she was walking away from. She tried looking at senior apartments, but the waiting lists were endless. She considered an independent living facility, but something about it felt cold and, well, too final. That's when a friend from her writing group, Marlene, asked, "Have you ever thought about getting a roommate?" Helen blinked. A roommate? At Sim, her mind flashed back to her 20s. Tiny kitchens, loud blenders, unpaid bills. She laughed out loud. But Marlene was serious. She had just moved in with another retired teacher. They each had their own bedroom and bathroom, but shared the kitchen and garden. "We have dinner together twice a week. The rest of the time, we do our own thing. But it's comforting knowing someone's in the next room." Something clicked in Helen. She didn't need a caretaker. She needed a witness, someone who saw her, greeted her in the morning, noticed if something was off. someone who made the house feel alive. So she opened her laptop and typed, "Senior roommate matching near me." That's how she found Golden Match, a senior roommate service that screens applicants, matches based on values, and even arranges trial periods. Helen was skeptical, but one profile stood out. Frances, 72, a retired landscape artist. Her bio read, "Looking for someone kind, independent, and quiet in the mornings. Must love chamomile tea and dislike Fox News." Helen chuckled. She's either crazy or perfect. They agreed to meet at a local park. Frances arrived in a lavender shawl, sun hat tilted slightly to the side, carrying a notebook full of pressed leaves. They talked for 2 hours about aging, art, grandkids, bad knees, and good wine. There were no awkward silences, no pity, just two women being real. By the end, Helen said, "Want to try a month?" Frances smiled. "Let's call it a season." They agreed on a few ground rules. Meals together twice a week, no obligation beyond that. Quiet hours after 10 p.m., shared grocery costs for basics like milk, bread, and fruit. No unsolicited health advice unless someone is bleeding. It wasn't perfect. Frances snored sometimes. Helen left tea bags in the sink, but it worked. In just weeks, Helen noticed something astonishing. She woke up looking forward to the day. She cooked again, not out of duty, but joy. She laughed more, cried less. One evening, Frances said, "Helen, you've got color in your cheeks again." And Helen replied, "That's because someone's looking at me." According to a 22 Harvard study, seniors who live with non-relatives in cooperative households report 60% lower rates of depression, better sleep quality, more physical activity, and significantly longer perceived life satisfaction scores. Why? Because of what psychologists call functional companionship. Not just living near someone, but living with someone who notices you. It's not about dependence. It's about being witnessed. Helen's story lit up our inbox. From Evelyn Carter, age 76. "After my divorce, I swore I'd live alone forever. Then I met Rita at a birdwatching club. We've been housemates for 4 years now. I don't just feel alive, I feel seen." From Michael O'Hara, age 81. "I moved in with an old army buddy after my wife passed. We watch Jeopardy every night and argue about whose hearing is worse. I haven't felt this much peace in years." These aren't exceptions. They're examples of what's possible when we step out of our fear and into connection. Helen now tends a garden with Frances. She reads poetry at a community cafe. She bakes muffins and dances barefoot in the kitchen. She's not just living longer, she's living better. In one of her letters to us, Helen wrote, "I thought I was too old to start over. Turns out I was just too lonely to believe I could." She ended with a quote taped to her fridge, "You're never too old to become who you might have been." George Eliot. How about you? Have you ever considered a roommate after 60? What fears or hopes come up when you imagine that? Share your thoughts in the comments with the phrase, "roommate after 60" or "independent living elder wisdom." Your story might just be the spark someone else needs to find the courage to change. Helen's story might have had a happy ending, but for many seniors, living alone isn't a choice. It's a default. Some outlive their spouses, others drift apart from family. Many simply never had children to begin with. And while independence sounds empowering, there's a side most people don't talk about: the dangers of aging alone, especially in a world that doesn't check in. One of our viewers, Richard Davis, 84, put it this way: "I was proud of living alone at first. Then I slipped in the shower and wasn't found until 2 days later. My neighbor thought I was on vacation. I almost died from dehydration." Sadly, Richard's story is more common than you think. In the US alone, over 14 million seniors live alone, And a study from the Journal of Gerontology found that seniors living alone have a 33% higher risk of mortality, even when controlling for income, location, and health conditions. Not because of physical illness, but because no one's there to notice the little things, the skipped meals, the bruised arm, the trembling hands. You see, aging alone doesn't kill you overnight. It does it slowly, by stealing the small safeguards you didn't realize you had. No one to notice your change in appetite. No one to ask why you skipped church 2 weeks in a row. No one to knock on your door when the lights stay off too long. And according to a landmark study by Brigham Young University, chronic loneliness has the same impact on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in. Living alone isn't just about physical risk. It corrodes your immune system. It triggers depression. It accelerates cognitive decline and even increases your risk of dementia by 40%. Margaret was 79 when her husband Harold passed away after 52 years of marriage. They had no children. Their neighbors moved years ago, and slowly the world stopped calling. At first, Margaret kept her routines. She made tea for two, out of habit. She still watered Harold's plants. She still walked to the post office every Wednesday. But with no one around to talk to, her voice got quieter. Her steps got slower. Her smile rare. One day, a neighbor noticed the mail piling up. Margaret had fallen in the kitchen. She was found 2 days later. She survived, but barely. And even after recovery, the trauma lingered. I didn't mind being alone, she told us, but I didn't know being invisible could be so deadly. If you're over 60 and live alone, ask yourself, has anyone checked on you in the past 48 hours? Would someone notice if you didn't show up somewhere? Do you have at least one person who would knock on your door just to say hi? If the answer is no, this video might just be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. After her fall, Margaret's niece set her up with something called a companion circle, a small, intentional check-in group of 3 seniors who live nearby. They have breakfast once a week. They text every morning, just GM and an emoji. And if no one replies by 10 a.m., someone calls or visits. Simple, free, life-saving. Margaret said, "Now, even if my body aches, I don't feel abandoned. Someone out there is waiting to hear from me." The World Health Organization classifies social isolation as one of the top 5 risk factors for early death in adults over 65, alongside smoking, obesity, hypertension, and inactivity. Dr. Vivek Murthy, U.S. Surgeon General, stated, "Loneliness is more than just a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. That's why programs like village-to-village networks, senior buddy systems, and faith-based community loops are rising to keep elders connected in low-tech, human ways. Here's the truth. You can live alone, you can be independent, you can even enjoy solitude, but you still need to be seen, noticed, valued, checked in. Whether that's a friend, a neighbor, a roommate, or a group chat with 3 smiling grandmas who trade soup recipes. It's not weakness, it's wise advice." From Tom Richards, 82. "I've lived alone for 15 years, but every Wednesday I host coffee hour at the community hall. It keeps me sharp and keeps me known." From Luisa Mendez, 77. "My daughter lives overseas. I joined a local walking club for seniors. Best decision I ever made. I haven't fallen once since, and I've gained 3 new friends." From Peter and Sal, 69 and 73. "We're roommates, but we're also lifelines. When one of us coughs too much, the other brings soup. It's silly. It's sacred. We don't all need retirement homes or fancy condos. Sometimes we just need a chair across the table, a phone call at 9 p.m., a light on in the other room. Aging gracefully isn't about staying young. It's about staying connected. That's the real wisdom behind long life after 70. Do you live alone? Have you built a circle of notice? Or are you still waiting for someone to knock? Share in the comments with Life After 60 Alone or Elderly Health Living Solo. Let's break the silence together. You never know who might read your story and say, "Thank you, that saved me." The body ages, the joints ache, but it's the heart, unseen, unheld, that withers first. So if you live alone after 60, don't just age in place, connect in place. Because one check-in, one message, one neighbor could be the very thing that helps you live to 100 with clarity, dignity, and warmth. If this video touched something inside you, a memory, a fear, a hope, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video if you believe every elder deserves to be seen. Subscribe if you want more real stories, gentle wisdom, and science-backed advice about life after 60. And comment below with your own story, or simply the word, "Still here, still growing." Because the more we share, the less alone we all become, and the next time we post, you'll be the first to know. Who knows? It might just be the story that saves you or someone you love.